What's up? My name's True. Here with my co-host, Time and Buminati. This is Unregulated Podcast, where we discuss the Arizona Medical Micro License Farmers Market Act, Arizona cannabis news, happenings, and cannabis education. I am True, a local grower here, and also been in the industry since it started. Next, we have Time.
I'm literally Time. I'm a graphic designer and home grower. And then we got Boominati.
I'm Boominati. Follow me, not Boominati, underscore 3.0. And yeah, let's get this thing started. Happy May the 4th be with you.
So today, what we're going to do, we're going to be interviewing a local caregiver and former co-worker, Yeska, and see how life in the industry, in and out of the industry, has treated him. He's not yet here, so before we get to that, Boomin, what were you saying about THC percentages and terpene percentages?
Oh, yeah. I just read this thing about how cannabis right now, as far as testing goes, when you're testing cannabis, it's the strongest it's ever been in our history. But with those high THC percentages and those high terpene profiles, we're seeing that, some of that stuff, when it gets into those higher levels, can actually be toxic for us.
Is that just going to be for terpenes? Or because obviously concentrates are already upwards of 90%.
Right. Well, I didn't read the full article, but basically what I believe that the science has been, or how it's been told to me, is that like when you get into the higher THC percentages is when you start getting into those like psychosis and those like schizophrenic highs. And then when you're getting into like the higher terpene profiles and stuff like that, that's when you're actually like damaging, your lungs. And, it's causing more damage to you smoking those higher terpene profiles.
So kind of like the argument BHO versus rosin, where the fats and lipids are still readily available in the rosin, whereas in the BHO it's purged off. And same with terpenes. At a certain terpene percentage, those fats and lipids can't be dispersed and it's still readily available. So again, with consuming anything, when you're putting a fire or a torch to anything and you're combusting it, there's active chemicals in everything. So once you put that light or that heat to it, it's gonna turn those volatile chemicals, which are terpenes, into something else.
Right.
That's why they say today's weed is not like our mom and dad weed back in the day.
Right. And yeah, man, I feel like weed in general is evolving and changing, right? But also, like, you have so many cultivars out there now, just it's so much more expanded than it used to be. So you have more access. So a lot more, how do I say these variables, inputs, people are growing weed differently than they have before in the past. I think we're trying to get back to a lot of the traditional things, but for the most part, there are people out there still pushing that envelope. I don't know if you saw that article that just came out this week about the new cannabinoid they found.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. They just found some new cannabinoid in South Korea. I've been meaning to read the whole article, but it was basically stating like it's just adding to the forever, expanding universe that is cannabis. Like, it's crazy how much more there is out there than just CBD, THC, the entourage effects. You have all the different terpenes, everything else that goes into it.
Yeah, like kind of like we touched on the first episode. There's So many different terpenes. We only touched on three of them. Three of
Right.
them that they're very well known and readily available, not in just cannabis, but in fruits, perfumes, cleaners, all kinds of things. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Besides that, did you guys see the Hemp Industry Trade Association's news broadcast?
No, what happened?
The only reason, well, I stopped by for a little bit, but I had to get back to work. But the only reason that I even thought about it again was because Jason had it on his podcast. And to think if something's supposed to be that important to you, something supposed to be that big to you, wouldn't you think there would be news stations? Like there were news stations there, but there was no broadcast about it whatsoever.
Oh, so what is that? Where they were just basically standing in front of the podium talking,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
giving statements. Gotcha.
Yeah, they had the owner, one of the co-owners of Wake and Bakery. They had dude from Normal. They had a few other people, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Two other people.
they were just talking about how the attorney general was trying to go against the hemp industry and how bad it will actually hurt people. And when you think about it, it actually will. Like how many businesses will be shut down, how many families who put their life savings in it, but same goes for social equity people who put their life savings into that program. So
Yeah.
that being said, seeing as how these programs come to Arizona to be birthed and then manipulated, um, and in what way have you guys, since I know you've read the bill, have you guys seen any portion of the bill that could be manipulated in any way to further the monopolize for MSOs?
I guess if there's any limit on them. Sorry. Go ahead.
You're good. You're good. Time. I was basically gonna say the same thing. Is that just like the licensing count? But the hardest thing with the industry, and I've seen it more prevalent, like now, like we were talking last time, how they're spotlighting these growers that are just these home growers, right? But I feel like the industry doesn't have everyone's best interest at heart. A lot of these owners have their own interests at heart, and as we see, this past week they're announcing the 19%, 26% taxation in California increase. There's so much money up at the top that's exchanging hands. That I think it's hard to say that you could control anything as of right now, unless you have the money to do that.
100%. 100%. I agree.
Yeah.
But when you say the number of licenses, are you speaking of the number of licenses that will be made available, or if it's capped out?
That's what I was gonna get at. Is like, so somebody wants to get into the small batch market or what have you. Who's to say that like one of these big MSOs won't back that grower? And there's nothing to stop that from happening.
Well, and Green had just said, yet the grows can't get paid, which is it's fucking insane. Like how many dispensaries you hear about that won't pay their bills. Like they'll wait for companies to go under.
Yeah. It's sad. So there is a stipulation in the bill that states that no MSO can be partnered with or involved in licensing in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
I put that in there because just like they foreshadowed this happening with the social equity program, I already saw it was happening with this program. But we got Yeska backstage. Let's get him in here.
All right. Hell yeah.
All right.
What's
Go
up,
ahead,
guys?
Yeska. Go ahead and
What's
introduce
up,
yourself.
dude?
So my name is Jose. I've been cultivating for 4 years on my personal, and over 6 years in the Arizona market.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
Can you name a couple of the companies you've worked for?
So the biggest one is True Harvest LLC, or everyone might know them as Shango. Another big one was it started called 48 Farms, which is now called Project Pax. They got bought out. Um, yeah, those are pretty much the two biggest ones. Other than after that, starting my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome.
Can I ask, like, to go from being in the garden every day, right? That's everybody's dream. Wake up, punch the clock, go in the garden, do your thing. What made you want to switch from doing the 9 to 5 grind to your own thing?
To be honest, it pretty much had to do a lot with how the Arizona market and how the companies that I was working for, how they were running their operations.
Yeah,
I myself, not only as a grower, I'm a smoker, right? Just like most of us are.
right.
And then with that being said, I also have asthma, which on my day-to-day life doesn't really flare up much. But when I end up smoking product that's tainted in some way or another, it becomes a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was finding out that I was smoking a lot of these samples that I was getting from companies, and my stuff would flare up completely. My lungs would become inflamed. I would start getting a wheeze, a respiratory infection, and as you guys know, that's Aspergillosis contamination, right?
Yeah.
So it's a spore that
Yeah.
was living within the cannabis itself that they either decided to nuke, right? Because they have these fancy these fancy microwaves that nuke the weed and kills every living bacteria that's on there.
Yeah.
But
That's something.
again, you're exposing cannabis and flower to radiation at that point, right?
Right.
So it's like, yeah, you might not have heavy metals anymore, but now you have uranium in there.
Right.
Yeah.
So pretty much what I ended up wanting to do was I got tired of the market. I couldn't really find a good, consistent, good product. And with my background of gardening and loving the garden, I decided, how hard can it be that these, chads are doing it on their own, dumping thousands of dollars in it, and they're still in it. They've been in it for years, right? We've seen it in the Oregon market. We've seen it in the California market. A lot of these guys don't even end up smoking their own flower. They're just
Right.
producing and selling.
Right.
And I wanted quality, right? I wanted quality and at a good price. And that's essentially what it is. Anyone can have really good flour, but if you don't really think about the patient and all you want to do is worry about the price and the money that you're making, how much of an impact are you really doing? You end up becoming just a big MSO like Apple and Windows, where you're not worrying about the consumer, you're worrying more about what's flowing into your pockets.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what we see nowadays, right? And it's sad, but the industry in Arizona is relatively new in the sense that it's been going on for, I believe, like a couple of years, 6, 7, 8 years, right? But we seen this shift when it came down. A lot of you guys were there for medical, right? And the flour was good, the prices were good, the savings was amazing. But look at it now. You spend $80 on half an ounce, and you find 4 different phenotypes of nugs within just that half ounce that you buy.
Yeah. You got some nugs that
That's
are
crazy.
straight green, some nugs that are purple, some nugs that don't smell like the other nugs, some nugs that are
Yeah.
moist, some nugs break down like sand. Yeah, there's a lack of consistency in the market now compared to when it was just a medical market.
Right.
Exactly. So that's legitimately what I started it. I decided, hey, I remember as a really young kid growing up in Arizona and in Mexico, being a young Chicano, you would always hear the older guys go like, "Oh, let's go pick up some Yeska." which is a slang term for cannabis.
Right.
And I decided to go on that. Like, I was like, there's no way that we have these brands that have these crazy, ridiculous names who use sexualization as one of their prime forms of putting their
For
brand out
selling
there.
points.
So
Exactly, right?
Yep.
Why is it we can't have something that was dedicated to our culture?
Right.
And I pretty much started everything individual with myself with the help of some good friends and some other good cultivators, just like True. Pretty much bouncing ideas back and forth. Even now, this product that I call product, right? Because that's what everybody else
Yeah.
calls it. To me, it's just flour. I don't do it for the ticket. I don't do it for the money.
Right.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Those are all good ass points, man. For real.
We got a question in the chat. We got a question. What is that process machine called? Microwave you mentioned.
I would have to come look out of it, but give me a second.
Let's say I know it's a remediation process, so
Yeah,
maybe
it's
a
just
remediation machine.
Yeah. Some of them, dude, they have like crazy ass like X3294,
Yeah,
shit like that.
exactly.
But I've seen other ones that are coming out now that are like the Flavor Lab. I don't know if you guys heard of them. They got a couple machines. They do rehydration, which means like they can take old packs, rehydrate them, spray them with terps. They got other machines where they can remediate them and nuke them, to get rid of any molds or heavy metals, like he said. It basically strips it of anything that would be considered toxic, but at the same time, you're nuking your cannabis. So
yeah. So you're putting things in a medical product that shouldn't be in a medical product. So
Exactly.
yes, Scott. So on our time at 48 Farms,
Yes, sir.
Zia Green said it doesn't even remove microtoxins. So it doesn't even really fully remediate the cannabis at all.
yeah.
So on our time at 48 Farms, what was, in your opinion, the worst thing you saw there?
To be honest, I think was when I ended up seeing a complete room that was filled with PM, which is powdery mildew, and because it was one of the first harvests that were coming down from that facility. They needed the money, right? They have investors, they have these people that sink thousands and thousands of dollars. They need their money one way or another, and cannabis mafia attacks, right? So what ends up happening is that these guys, and I don't mean just these guys. I mean, I was there too, and I was part of it, and I did nothing to stop it. So I don't call myself innocent, but it was one of the things that contributed me to be like, I can't do this. I'm selling product to people that is not something I would even consume. And they're putting my name on it, right? Because I was doing just like True, we were doing promotion for them. Because not only were their flower, their lead to veg and moms, and then the lead to flower, we were also the guys that, since we have somewhat of a leg in the Arizona community, they decided they wanted us to advertise, which we were okay with when it was the first couple harvests that were completely fine, right? They might have not been the best quality, but I can guarantee you all of that we were happy with, in the sense that it was grown clean and free of anything we would not consume ourselves. But they ended up spraying down the whole room. We just started getting rid of leaves. They told us the branches that are too far gone, trim them off. Anything else, wash it off.
Wow.
I mean, it did end up all going to fresh frozen, to which, if you know, right, a lot of that bacteria ended up dying off when it got frozen. But that's not any type of an excuse. That doesn't matter. Scientifically, you probably never really even got any effects of that, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like if they tell you, no one wants to know how the hot dog is made, right? But unfortunately, the people that do know what's going on. And a lot of us, and I wouldn't even say a lot of us now, some of us now are having the respect and the love and the dedication. The problem is that they don't listen to us, right? We we don't have the money and the backup of brands just giving us constant free stuff to be promoting for them. So our basis doesn't get any higher.
Yeah.
And then we get
Yeah.
shadow banned by Instagram. And then even then further on, we can't do anything.
Right.
But let it be, I mean, I'm not even going to mention any names, but
Yeah, no
brands
name.
that throw women out there in bikinis giving out hot dog water carts for free, and go look at their followers. Go look
Yeah,
at their followers. You know what I
So
mean?
speaking on that, everyone knows, everybody in business knows that sex sells. So
Of course.
Right.
of course that's not going to be any
Fact of
different in
life.
cannabis. Yeah,
Right.
it's not going to be any different in cannabis. The difference for me was the fact that this was supposed to be a medical product, and then they're still using that as advertisement. So
Right.
Well, and
I
if
would
it's
like to
supposed
see
to
the
be a
funny.
medical product, and they're also turning it into dog shit, and then they're taking that dog shit and advertising it with sex because it's like,
Don't
you know,
don't
the
insult
only
dog
way they
shit
can
like
sell
that.
it.
Don't insult dog shit like that. Dog shit is actually dank. It has a nice dank smell to it. We're talking about the hay and the shit that's itches your nose when you smell it because you just got mold spores right up your nose.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
not the strain dog shit. Yeah.
No, yeah, that's
Yeah, not
that's
the,
what's so
yeah.
ironic, right? Is that like today we're so heavily regulated and it's a medical product, right? But at the same time, these companies have to sell the party, you know? And they
Exactly.
know that they can't stand on their product, so they have to gimmick it, they have to sell it by any means necessary.
Add a Game Boy to it, spray it with artificial terps, or
Yep.
hey, turn your mold into gold. And
Right.
a lot of that concentrates we were smoking back in the day. Even then, even in the medical only day, there was a lot of stuff that was turned into so-called medication that shouldn't have been consumed. But like Zia Green said, if you need a rad machine in the first place just for your cannabis to pass, then you're
Right.
doing something 100% wrong in the first place. Like for
Yep.
every inspection that I've done, I've had very few requirements. Like, come on, one requirement is everyone that enters this facility has to be wearing PPE. That should be a requirement for everyone in any facility that lets anybody go in there.
Right.
Two,
Yeah.
there everyone that's in that facility should be responsible in making sure that every time you leave that room, in your room that you're doing work in, there's no foliation left, there's no standing water, there's nothing that can cause your plants harm. I've walked into a facility that I worked with right before I started working there and saw mold just having a heyday on the trays. Not one tray, but every single tray in the room. You know what I mean? As I
Yeah.
said on the previous episode, it's a plant, it's alive, shit happens. But when it gets to that extent to where your entire room is full of PM or all your trays are full of mold and it's just dangerous for your employees to walk in, then something needs to be done. Like, and I don't mean remediation or turning that flour into concentrate. I mean, you need to reevaluate what you're doing as a company, how you're feeding, what you're feeding, and then go about it again. As you saw, Jose, what happened after you left my side of the hallway?
I mean, I'm a little big, so don't forget that. But no, yeah, I mean, it thrived, right? Like you came in and you started killing it when it came down to those rooms. It was only really when someone else ended up overstepping their boundaries and started messing with your formula itself that any problems was happening. But then going back to your original statement, once again, anytime I went to any one of your rooms whatsoever, those trays were spotless. Not to mention that I had to usually cross you with a 55-gallon barrel of water and Zerotol sanitizing those trays maybe once a week, right? But spotless. clean.
So my thing is, as one person, you can keep an entire hallway clean in a giant facility. So in a facility that big, you got a lot of workers, and in a smaller facility, it should be a lot easier to keep it clean. So again, there should be specific requirements to remain open. Cleanliness should be one of those requirements, not how many hand towels or hand sinks you have available in a location. So now you're out of the industry commercially. Can you explain to people what you're doing now and how the industry influenced your career move?
So right now I am the main grower for a wholesale company here in Arizona of plants. I manage something like 300 to 400 acres of plants, ranging from agaves, aloes, yuccas, fruit trees, shrubbery, ground cover, pretty much you name it. Most this company does it. I won't throw their name out there, but on a day-to-day basis, I essentially ended up going from an indoor facility, right, where everything was on grow trays that were like 2, 3 feet above the ground. So now I have to deal with the pests outdoors. And it's honestly crazy to say, and I stand by this whatsoever, right? But it's actually like it's cleaner outside than it is when you're going indoors.
Well, when you're outside, at least the predators have a chance to get at the
Exactly.
prey.
That's what I'm trying to state. That it's like it's crazy. You end up seeing that these plants thrive just on their own, right? And the whole cycle continues. And you get these companies that are like, well, why isn't our weed tasting any better? When they're growing inside Rockwool with the most inorganic things, right? They're growing inside Rockwool with salt-based nutrients at water that's complete 0 ppms, which the water part is fine, right? But with no help whatsoever of microbes at all. You ask them, so when do you do teas? They're like, what's tea? Ask that. True. Remember that. Remember when we pitched the idea of teas? How did three grown adults look at us? I mean, like three grown men that are supposed to be business entrepreneurs, right? And they're like, bacteria tea. What are you talking about? And it's not like we were talking about rocket science, because you guys know how deep this can get. It was a simple compost, worm compost, maybe just some like back guano and some bone meal, something completely basic, right?
Mm-hmm.
They knew nothing of it. But then you smoke their weed, and yeah, it looks beautiful. It's gorgeous. So you could take amazing pictures, and you break this stuff up, and then first it breaks down into powder. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that, right? It breaks down into powder, and once it gets down to powder and you smoke it, it's legitimately, me and my friend were joking about this the other day. The smoke tastes like smoke. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no taste to it whatsoever.
They call it bonfire kush
Exactly, right?
because it tastes like a bonfire.
And that's it. It literally tastes like you grab a charcoal straight off your grill and just take a bite out of it.
Right.
And to be honest, people always like, they ask me, at least when I grow my product, they're like, oh, why is yours so different? Yeah. And it's like, it's not that it's different. It's that I try to replicate outdoors inside.
Right.
Exactly. Tom, you had a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask, so did you start growing prior to working at a facility, or is that where you learned how to grow?
So I wouldn't say I had prior experience, just for the simple fact that it was a couple of friends one day went $20 on a lid, right? And as we were separating our good stems and seeds, we had like 15 seeds in one hand, and I threw it in a pot in the back of my house. And it happened to be during monsoon season, which you guys know it might not be super wet out here, right? But more consistent than what it is now. I come back a week later, and that pot's completely hydrated, and there's like 15 little seedlings. So that kind of pretty much, that was when it sparked the weed side, right? Prior to that, I still grew stuff as a kid, but it was like the typical little sunflower in a like a little styrofoam cup or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, like I mean, I love it. To be quite honest, it's just growing in general is great. I
Yeah.
think
Right.
that
I think
people
there's
should
still
learn about
like
it.
there's a lot to learn still by going to facilities and being taught what to do. Like
Exactly.
they do pay, or a lot of them paid big money in the beginning to get SOPs that they knew were going to work. And
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, so this is how I look at it. It's good to go into the commercial market if you want to learn a few things as both what you can do and what absolutely not to do. Because there's a big difference between growing on a commercial scale and growing on small scale. When you're growing on small scale, you have that luxury of paying close attention to every single detail. When you're growing on a commercial scale, you have that overhead that you have to meet no matter what. Because no matter what issues come in that commercial, you still have to pay that license fee. You still have to pay your electricity. You still got to pay your rent. Same thing for your house on the home grow, but it's a lot less. Your overhead is a
yeah,
lot less on the home grow. So again, I always say that I understand when issues arise. It's always how you deal with those issues. So my question now to you, Jose, is as being a cultivator in the commercial industry, being a home cultivator, and now being a cultivator of something besides cannabis, how would you feel about having the opportunity to turn Yeska into an actual semi-commercial brand, whereas a micro licensed brand?
I mean, it would be, and it is something that I want to pursue, right? Ultimately, that's the whole point of any of this. When you're doing it, is that if you're able to work in your passion, it's you're essentially not really working.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we hope to do that. And like going back to what Boo said earlier, I feel that yeah, in a way that was right. Like we are heavily regulated, but I think that the line is drawn that it's when you have a certain amount of money, you're not regulated anymore. You're able to
Right.
do exactly whatever you're doing and act in these gray parts, right? Where you're selling all these products to people and technically, yeah, the practice might not be well or it might not be good intended, but since it doesn't set up their red flags, it doesn't really matter. Why? Because they are paying that money to do
and
that.
I definitely wonder how bad the stuff is that goes out the back door compared to what they're getting away with in the legal market.
So, as a person that has received backdoor packs, I can say that some backdoor packs are only backdoored because these brands can't get on shelves without paying high fees. And there's the other backdoor packs that are horrible to where they're molded and so old that it should be illegal to sell it in any way, shape, or form. Like it can get to the point to where you try to backdoor something to a black market person and it's so bad that they just look at you and be like, I'll give you $100 a pound.
Yeah.
But see, that's the worst
Yeah.
part that a lot of those packs that don't end up getting sold, since again,
Pre
the
rolls
practice is okay, they end up running it into CRC.
or pre
Yeah,
rolls.
they do all types. They do
Or yeah,
CRC. They end up in Mylars that are labeled Fanta. Everything, dude.
or they sent it into, or they the best one yet, they send it over to the East Coast.
Or
Yep.
or or they put it on this machine and they spray it with distillate and terps and then they put it in this fancy looking cone and put a nice name on it and then slather it with more distillate and then roll it in keef or THCA and put it in a fancy jar and call it something with a G and then another one something with a J. All that polyglycerin and cornstarch people are just
Mhm.
consuming so freely and willingly. It blows my mind. Yeah, I'm
Oh, and
talking to
then they
you.
talk about that it tastes great. It was like, well, yeah, dude, you just smoked glycerin. Like you essentially just smoked candy.
But that's what's crazy too is like even the biggest brands right now are doing these practices. You know, literally pulling up to sessions and just trapping it out.
Yeah.
And it's so sad because there's a lot of brands out here that are doing shit the right way.
Right.
It's crazy that it's so hard for people that are doing it the right way to actually make a difference because one, most of them that are doing it the right way don't have the amount of money that the others have. Like we're talking Arizona based dispensaries versus MSOs. So we're talking the little guys versus the people who have multi dispensaries in multi states. For instance, let's say a mint versus a deeply rooted. Whereas deeply rooted isn't just a Arizona home based dispensary, it's also a social equity
Right.
license winner. So it's called deeply rooted for a reason. It's deeply rooted in Arizona culture, cannabis, and Arizona lifestyle. Period. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So
Oh yeah.
it's a big difference getting your product in a shelf on a small scale dispensary such as that to whereas you try to go get your stuff on say a D2 dispensary
Yeah.
and you want to put your brand out there and then
Right.
they put your brand out there and then all of a sudden your brand is moving a lot faster than their home brand. What do you think is going to happen?
Right. They gotta up it. Yeah, I was just gonna say that with the like hash, right? Hash is a big thing. It's starting to become a very big thing here in Arizona. And like you got all these different, black market brands who are multi-state.
Yeah, and some of them are straight hot dog water.
Yeah, yeah. Trash, dog.
Yeah.
Trash.
Bruh,
Man.
you
But
ever
once one in a
smell
jar, though.
of boiling hot dogs? Now imagine dabbing that.
Sulfur.
Like you're snorting a Vienna sausage.
So Yeska.
Yes, sir.
So if we did get this bill passed, which aspects of the bill would you be interested in getting into? Because we were talking about how you don't have to, sign up for every check mark kind of thing.
I would have to reread them and just pretty much inspect them thoroughly, to be honest.
Gotcha.
But my thing is just making sure that we're doing the right thing, right? Because a lot of the times these laws are written in such a way where they seem like they're giving you something, but they're really just taking, right? Not that I'm saying that this is this instance, right? But we have to, as a whole and as a community, come together and really make sure that this is going to happen.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I mean,
Luckily, this one was written by just a slow ass Marine. So there's no
that's why
big
I back
legal.
it. That's why I back it. Because
Hey,
blue is my favorite
this,
color, and that's the
this,
crayon you used. So
hey man, I'm telling you, this was written by someone who was just tired of complaining, but not doing anything about it. You know what I
Right.
mean? I
Yeah.
got tired of complaining about the quality in dispensaries. I got tired of complaining about the people who own the cultivations not being educated. But I just sat there and worked for them. You know what I mean? So that's just me perpetuating the issue. One day I was like, man, they think we're jokes in this courtroom. So how about I actually do something about it? So
Oh yeah.
got together with a couple of lawyers and a couple of people, and we came up with this. And again, as I tell everyone, one, I'm not a lawyer. I am not the smartest person. And also, uh, this is out of passion, not out of greed, necessity, or anything like that. The reason I feel Arizona needs this is because the industry here was built on the back of medical patients, yet those same medical patients can't go to any dispensary here and consistently get quality medication.
Yeah.
So what was the purpose of making it recreational if the medical people still can't get what they need? Oh, wait, I know. There's more recreational people than medical people because you don't have to pay for a recreational license. You got to pay for a medical card.
Yeah. Have y'all been keeping up with like the reschedule news and stuff? How they want to reschedule it federally?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a
bit.
really particular part that I've been hearing a lot about lately. It's commerce.
Interstate or interstate or interstate commerce?
Both. Both. Basically, if that state is legal, you can cross state lines. You know,
Yeah.
obviously is going to be within a reasonable amount, but I think that's kind of a push in the right direction, you know? But I just don't know how that works out with, obviously, if they reschedule it, it's going to be across the board. But, you know, in other states where it's hardcore still, you know, there's still states where you can get life.
Yeah,
weed.
you see the stuff that's happening in Texas?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like also there was on Twitter there was a report about I believe it was Texas also, but they're going after legal dispensaries now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hemp push, and I don't know where it's coming from, but it's up there, dude. Like I was saying before we hopped in here, I was reading something about Idaho or Ohio, one of those. But they're redoing their whole hemp, and about how like a lot of the hemp derivatives that we consume are not covered by the Farm Bill.
Yeah, because a lot of them are actually just THC.
Right.
Like a lot of them are. It's literally
Pretty much,
just
yeah.
fucking. It's just THC.
Right.
But yeah,
They know that they can't, catch every package. They can't, test every single package either. And yeah,
Right.
numbers.
Yeska, I got one more question for you, Yeska, before we let you go. So, damn, it just blew my head. My dog started barking, and everything I had in my mind just flew away. But yeah. All right, yeah, here we go. So, in a perfect world, what would be a bill that would be pushed that would help both the home grower and also not step on the foot of an MSO in any way? Do you think that's possible? Do you think that exists? Do you think there's a world where MSOs wouldn't come after micro licensees and home growers?
I mean, I think so. I think where it has to be valuable to both, right? So I think it's like pretty much what you're stating with what you're looking at, where if we have that micro licensing and certain people that do have that strive to get that money can start doing something with it, right? And then once you start using it towards actually furthering on your own brand, you get to help them out because you're going to have to pay licensing fees. That's just what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It just needs to be more helpful towards our side when it comes down to a smaller brand, because we don't have $50,000-$60,000 that we can pay them up front. It takes a lot of money to grow good cannabis, and it takes a lot of resources.
So this is how I broke it down in the fees. As you know, because you know me personally, I'm not a person that has a lot of money or comes from a lot of money. Everything I do, I do it by either working hard to get that equipment or working out a deal with a fellow grower to get that equipment to do what I need to get done. So I set it at around 8,000 to 8,500 is a total yearly for every single license, every single available license. And again, I don't think there'll be very many people who want to do every single thing. Like I believe that there will be a lot of people who want to solely focus on either a nursery or solely focus on cultivation, or they only want to run a retail, or maybe they want to start a security business to make sure that the farmers markets and these new small retail locations are properly protected. Maybe they want to open a consulting firm to help these places become successful. You know what I mean? So there's avenues for everyone to be able to do something, and that fee doesn't come close to a commercial fee. 8,500 for every license, 1,000 for a nursery license, 500 for a delivery license. You know what I mean? These are yearly fees, and also you have to keep up with compliance. You have to have a proper security plan. You have to have a proper business plan. You know what I mean? It's not like how the social equity one was brought out to where we'll just take your money and you can apply for it. And if you don't qualify because you missed a step because you didn't read it correctly and we didn't show you how to do it, you're just shit out of luck. So I didn't want people to experience that and to think that this is a money grab for anyone. What I want people to do is seriously read the bill, and if they have any criticisms, give actual criticisms, suggestions, anything in there that has a cause for concern. Let us know what it is so everything can be addressed and we can actually have something on the ballot that actual voters back, not something that was written by the dispensary association or dispensary owners or big pocket brands or anything like that. Something that was written by the people for the people.
Oh yeah.
That's the goal of the Medical Micro License and Farmers Market Act. And on the farmers market aspect, we haven't really touched much on that. But
We definitely need to.
imagine being a home cultivator who has a buddy that just happens to have a license. Hey, get your product tested. If your product passed test, then you can work out whatever business you need to work out with your license buddy, which is what we used to do back in the day, caregivers and dispensaries. I don't know why they changed it, but it's to make sure that everybody is able to legally make something off of the hard work that they put in. Everybody thinks growing weed is easy. It can be easy, but growing great weed is not easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions, Jessica? Any questions? Any last shout outs or anything?
Is he frozen?
Freeze?
I think. Yep.
He froze.
Oh man.
That's all right.
Oh, there he goes.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah, bro,
Yeah.
it's like crazy storm over here for some reason. Just moved in within the last 30 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Looks like it's moving in over here too. It is.
Well, True wanted to know if you had any questions before we get off of here.
No, honestly, I'm good for right now.
You have any last
Right
shout
on.
outs? Any shout outs you want to give? Any for your company?
I have a
any
shout out.
companies you recommend? Anything like that?
I have a shout out for Yeska because I just tried 4 things that he grew last run, and they all smoke great, taste great.
And I tried
I told
3.
him, hell yeah. You liked them too?
That GG4 was my favorite. Papaya was very, very delicious. And the permanent marker was terpier than any permanent marker I've gotten at any dispensary.
Fire.
Oh yeah, appreciate
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys. No, I mean, I just pretty much want to appreciate it. I appreciate everyone that's been really giving us support. Just know that anything that I grow, it would be something that I would smoke myself or that I would share with like my good friends. Boo, we need to get you into there, bro. Try some of that boo juice, you know what I mean? And I
course.
definitely got you on some flour, bro. I got you on some samples. But yeah, I
Of course.
appreciate you guys for having me on here. We'll probably have a better one here soon. I'm not gonna lie, that fucking donut destroyed me. I was baked. But But thank you guys.
Oh yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Thank you for joining, man. We appreciate it. We appreciate you
Yeah.
giving your insight on inside and outside the industry and giving us a little look into what your life looks like now.
Thank you, bud. Thank you. Thank you guys. Later.
Oh yeah.
Later.
Good one, brother. All right, before we get out of here, any shout outs that you guys want to give, any last minute questions, concerns, anything in the chat?
I think we all want to shout out Mikey from Arizona Stoner for sure,
Fuck yeah.
helping us out with that
100%.
merch. And we still have the pre-sales going on. The first 30 local orders are going to be entered into a giveaway, which is you can see it all on our Instagram, but it's worth the shot. Winning a nice flour mill,
It's
winning
so much
some
stuff.
fun
So
shit
much
from
stuff
local
that
growers.
I'm telling you, so much stuff that hasn't even been listed that's in this giveaway that the price of the shirt doesn't even come close to the amount of stuff that you get. I literally got a big gift bag right here from one company that's ridiculous. And that doesn't include Yeska's donation, Grow Fire Farms donation, True to the Movement's donation, Truly Rooted's donation, So Let's Eat donation, uh, your
Oh
two
yeah.
donation. The only thing that's been listed is the Smoke Drop Distro, Edible Mommy, Dr. Feel Good. You know, those are the things that are listed. But there's, if you look at the sponsor list, trust me, you'll be blessed. The three winners are going to walk away very, very happy.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All
What
right,
about you,
Purple Punch,
Bowman?
gentlemen. Go ahead, Boomin.
Hell yeah.
You got anything, Boomin?
Yeah. Shout out y'all, of course. Shout out us. You know, I want to shout out everybody in the chat, everybody tuning in. We really do appreciate the support.
100%.
We fucking we're doing all this for y'all, you know?
Yeah, we like for real. We appreciate y'all tuning in. We just started this, and it's going to get a lot better as we go along. And
Yep.
we truly appreciate y'all, especially y'all coming on the early days to listen to us gibber and jabber before we got everything fully formatted and ready for you guys. But I felt like if we didn't start it, we weren't going to do it. So we started it, and here we are.
Yep.
And thank you guys for
Exactly.
joining. This has been another episode of Unregulated Podcast. Until next Sunday, 420. It's been a good one. Purple Punch.
Peace.